Hello, friends, and thanks for joining us for this Enneagram and Marriage midweek mini. So thankful to have you with us again for the pod today. We are so excited to be talking about how to heal misalignment as a couple. I get this week in, week out with my couples. We're just out of line with each other. We also have an Instagram series on this that we just put out last night. So today we're going to talk about some general issues, how couples get misaligned, as well as how we can put you back together again, like Humpty Dumpty, except you guys and actually better. So I'm so excited we get to do this episode today, and make sure you check out the Instagram series as well. Also, it's been great hearing from people who want to be part of the Deeper Dive 2025 Enneagram and Marriage podcast series. If you are a couple who has a deep story to share of healing, redemption, does not mean you're not still growing. In fact, I would be alarmed if you're like, we've arrived, we're perfect. But if you have a story of healing and a journey that has something to do with your marriage, we would love to talk to you about that and see if you'd be a good fit for the 2025 series here. So excited to get to do what we absolutely love, which is dig in and analyze. And as my friends, the cast-ons from the Marriage 365 said, who are one of our guests lining up for 2025, they said, we just want to be psychoanalyzed. So that was so much fun, honestly, to hear. And I hope that you are up for that or sharing with us your journey. And you can be particular to say, we'd like you to analyze this. We'd also like you maybe not to as much in this case. So, love to work with all different personalities. And I know we all have our various hangups as well as strengths. And it's just great to hear from each other and learn from each other. So, make sure you check out the show notes if you want to email us about that. Otherwise, the only other E&M announcement is, Wes and I and another couple friend of ours have mystery dinner games. It is the Halloween or spooky season. And yes, I meant season, you know what I mean? And we are so excited to remind you of that. If you want to have couples times or just fun times with friends or family, our coupon is in the show notes. It's Halloween 2024, and you get 25% off one of our games. So, other than working on E&M projects and seeing lots of clients this week, I feel like everybody was up in arms this week because of the storms of life in general and here in Florida. Now I am present with you for this episode on misalignment. So, first and foremost, a quick reminder that misalignment can come through communication disparity, forgetting each other's types, forgetting each other's conflict styles, maybe even not even knowing those things. It can come from two types of emotional imbalance. Could be the emotional imbalance of feeling emotionally imbalanced, as I talked about on Monday when we were talking about authenticity. And you may feel like, oh, I don't have balance in my own self. I don't have self-care going. I don't feel good about my self-preservation, or I'm having hormonal shifts that are making me feel off. That is obviously going to misalign you together. And then also, the second type of emotional imbalance would be just emotionally feeling like you are carrying all the emotions of the relationship. And we are going to be talking about mental load soon on our deeper dive pod. And that is what I'm talking about here. Just, man, I feel like I have to do most of the heavy lifting of emotions. And sometimes, as you know from our heuristics we do as humans, sometimes both of us are feeling like that, like, oh, it's me. And then their partner is like, yeah, it's me. So just know that you're not alone if sometimes you feel misaligned. I'm going to give you some tips and tools for this. Also, different values and goals, right? So much of that has to do with our Enneagram instincts and all the ways that we can each feel like our desires are the most important and our spouse's desires are bad or wrong. And so sometimes there's just a misalignment, or we might not go as far as to say bad or wrong, but we just feel like, oh, we're so different. And we're usually right about that. We usually know if we're different. I'm not accusing you at all of thinking that you're different when you're not. You probably are. And so that can be a place where you feel like the two puzzle pieces do not fit as well together. A lack of reciprocity. I'll just give a few more. Could be another reason why you feel misaligned. Maybe it's not emotional, but it's just a different part of your love styles. And I know we're covering that on the Deeper Dive podcast today on desire and how to remember each other's desires. Also, attachment wounds. Sometimes there's something deeply buried that you're still in pain over, and you've maybe even forgiven your spouse, but you're like, this is a hard part of our journey because we are still working through something that is deeply hurtful to one or both of us. And we're off because of it, because this is still lingering in the air. And for any of these, of course, my team and I, as well as our affiliate coaches, we are here for you if you just want to have a safe place to do this work. Because I know that's why I do a lot of my work is it's hard to talk about things on your own. And yes, walk and talks help, but it's still hard at times and it's clunky. And so having that third party makes it a little less clunky if they're actually skilled and trained. So I get that that's a lot there, that we just went over all these reasons why you might feel misaligned. And I'm not going to leave you there. I said we have the helpers if you need even deeper dives. And some of you have great helpers out there already, which is awesome. Second of all, though, we have some tips for you today on this short episode so that you can actually bring something tangibly home with you and try it out so that you can get back into realignment. Just like when you go to your chiropractor and you're like, oh, that felt so good. Or I know for me, I was at Pure Barre today and me and Hannah switched schedules. So one of us could watch Jack and we're like, oh, that just felt like we needed that. Like each of us just needed to come back into alignment. And I feel like that is exactly what we need to do in our marriages, is just actually take time out. Many of you know that's for me every week. I'll start with the instincts because it's such a quick win for so many of us. Such a great place to start if you're just unsure of how do we get back into alignment. It can be just going up the tree, if you give that analogy, which I love to give, of just starting at the roots, making sure you're sitting with your values and you know what they are so that you're not just being selfish, but you're thinking of, okay, I care about compassion, I care about others, I care about love. I'm not going to just be selfish here. And then coming into, though, what do I need, though, to feel okay? That is an important question you're allowed to ask. And a lot of you were maybe even raised in a culture. Sometimes the Christian culture hasn't always done the best job, or other religions too, I'm sure, but of allowing you to get self-care. And yet, we know Christ said, love others as you love yourself. And, I was raised in a home where my mom put us so far ahead of herself that sometimes she had mental health issues. And so it was a good reminder that she told me later is always make sure you take care of you so that you can take care of others well. And that is what I want to remind you of here in your misalignment. You might not see it as the obvious low-hanging fruit first place solution, and yet it might be everything. Just finding out how you can get back on track with for some of you, you're like, I like outer world order. I need to clean my home and then I feel at peace. Others of you, it's that workout. Others of you, it's making sure you're drinking enough water. I know a lot of you are measuring your water intake. Others of you, it's getting a little bit of sunshine or a walk every day, but allowing yourself the emotional, physical, spiritual self-care so that you can give to others. This is absolutely a great starting point. That's the first instinct. And then we move into the next two instincts, but that's the really good starter point for alignment. And then the next one would be, of course, as you've heard me say many times here, the date nights for the sexual instinct of just coming back together and saying, okay, we do have a lot of polarity and differences, but let's connect. Let's see what we've been up to this week. Let's just relax. Let's just celebrate the good and maybe even plan something fun. And even if it's in the distance, and dream a bit or watch something funny or serious but beautiful together and meaningful. Let's have some deep dive conversations. Some of you love that. And then also, of course, the social giving really fulfills the alignment in that way as well, that you're not just focused on self and couple, but giving out back. There's something about that of sharing community that, even though it's sometimes scary and daunting for some of us, it's always a win when you do it well and when you're really working with your gifts in a way that feels like it's needed. So keep on learning how to work these instincts, and that will be, I think, your biggest, best, and most simple solution for coming back to alignment. But I do have some other ones for you too. I want to also let you know that active listening is a great one. And this requires us to look with our verbals, but also our nonverbals to see what does our spouse need from us. You heard me recently say Wes really likes empathy, and that's a new thing for him to be talking about. And so I've just been pausing a little longer and coming up and giving him just a little peck on the forehead, or allowing him to just have a hug, like, you know what, we're busy, but we're going to stop for an attachment point and just give each other some attention, even though it's not a date night or it's not a time we're otherwise hanging out. So just allowing yourself to come back into some attachment points together and to really allow for active listening when it is a time together versus just you sharing. And some of you are amazing at that. Some of you need some deep breaths on that. And I think I fall into both at times. I think probably you do too, right? Like sometimes you're an amazing listener and sometimes you're like, oh, I've got to slow down and do that. So the other area is working on compromise. And that's a place where I think that most of us forget because we want what we want. We're in a culture which is like, oh, you want this drink, you want this nuance, you want this curated view. And we forget that we have to work with other people who are very different. And so allowing ourselves some self regulation, so our window of tolerance is more open, like we've talked about sleep and rest and the self pres and all that is good, but then leaning out a bit too to say, we can do some things together. I did that with Wes actually recently this week when he was wanting a meal, and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I ate something, and he's like, oh, I set everything out, and I just really love our time at meals together. So I was able to force my bum to sit down. You know how that is for me as a seven sometimes, and just enjoy. And he was teaching us all about water molecules and chemistry, and it was really good. It was actually yummy too. And I was just like, wow, I'm glad I chose to sit down and just to be present. And that was a compromise moment for me when I can just swirl away and go work or go relax a little bit after a busy day and want to reapproach when it's time to go into storyland. Oh, we're gonna watch a show together, all of us. And instead of just coming back to what does my spouse really love and need? And that I think is so worthy. But I agree with all of you if you're thinking right now about your spouse and what they love. It's sometimes easy, sometimes, again, it's hard. Now, another way that you can come back into from misalignment is to revisit your shared goals. So I think that's a great one. I have an anniversary handout I share in our collective, but it's very much a time when you can just ask each other, what are your goals for this week? This month, this year. If you have my Enneagram and Marriage Planner, I'm putting it in the show notes for you again if you don't have it. It's a great way to just review, and you can start it anytime on an evergreen level, or you can get the one that starts in January. But it's just whatever system you're using, it's so important to say, are we in alignment? Are we attuned to the things on our plates? Do we know what's happening in each other's worlds? And I hope that you do. And if you don't, you're normal. Sometimes we do fall off learning what each other's goals are. And sometimes we say, I have this goal for you. And we have to take a step back. That might not be their goal, especially those of you who are more assertive and you can just see, or you're idealist and you're like, I want this for you so bad. You're so good at this. Or you are telling me this, that you wanted this, and now your spouse may be shifting, or maybe they're dragging their feet and you want something that they wanted at one time. And it's just good to reassess, where are they now? Maybe they had something happen that changed and shifted them. Maybe they had, in our state, hurricanes, or they had like Wes, an injury. And so the plans and goals have changed a little bit, but maybe just you being that active listener and that person who's willing to let your spouse share their goals will be a great place to get realigned. I truly believe that. I also believe that you guys having some couple goals together will be great. One of the things in our life is Wes wanted to play one of our murder mystery dinner games. In fact, this isn't a murder one, it's just our fun Christmas one. And it's got all these different Christmas movies. You might have heard me talk about it before, like Elf and Home Alone and The Grinch. And we bring them together in a little mystery. And he's like, oh, we should really play that. And I'm like, yes, let's do that. Like, I know you love that. I am not the best actress. He's like, yes, you are when you're in your spirit of it. But like, I think I just like to be that fly on the wall watching people. I just really enjoy that. And I'm excited to play that with him in that spirit of that's one of his goals, but it's become a couple's mutual goal when I see, oh, we made that. It was hard work. We rubbed up against each other while we made that, but we made it and it's fun and it brings joy to others. And we now can enjoy playing it. And so this is a great low hanging fruit for us to reapproach. And you might have that where you're like, we really like did a good job on our living room together. We painted our kitchen and yet we haven't hosted. We created this patio scene, or we bought season tickets to the hockey game and we should go. Whatever it is, come back to some goals that are fun. And of course, meaningful goals too. I know last semester we taught a class together. It'll probably happen to where we do that again too. And find places where you can be interesting and fun together, but also places where you can do something serious together. It might be that you're like, we pray together, and that is our beautiful gift together. I know some couples like that. They're just really, really beautiful prayer warriors. Other couples I know have a mission that they go and help the homeless together. Others are just like, we love watching sunsets at the beach, and hopefully they have a mix of things for them and things they do for others. But you hear me when I say finding goals that align you. It's important when so much can pull us away from each other in this crazy world. So, now that you've walked through these ways that you can do this in general, I'll walk you through just a few ways that some of the types can get misaligned, just so you know. And we'll go do, just the big picture overview. And you can remember, like, oh, this is good for me to hear about my spouse, because sometimes I forget that we're not the same and that they get triggered in different ways. So if you're with a one, sometimes they feel misaligned when they're feeling self critical inwardly. And you can read more about any of these on our Instagram too, but just good to know, like, if you're feeling like something's off, they may have that inner critic going. Sometimes twos feel misaligned when they haven't paid attention to their needs or vocalized them to others. So it's like they're giving so much. Sometimes threes feel misaligned when they've pushed down their authentic feelings or have been in that performance space and haven't been able to have that authenticity. Sometimes fours are feeling misaligned when they feel understood. Life gets loud and they can't focus and get back into their thinking, and that's really hard for them. Sometimes fives feel misaligned when they haven't checked in on their emotional health and they may be even in a space of self deprecating. Sometimes sixes feel misaligned when they've allowed anxiety and doubt to lead their actions, and they're giving away their action steps to other people instead of honoring what they can come to if they give themselves some time. Now, sevens can feel misaligned when they've run from a conflict or hard emotion and the root to see what needs to be done instead of just keeping on and going. Eights can feel misaligned when they feel like they're not being heard and seen by their family, and they feel like they're doing all the protecting and loving, and they're just not getting that reciprocation from somebody else in their culture. Just can hurt so badly. And then lastly, nines, they can feel misaligned when they are not feeling specifically heard by others and given the time and thoughtfulness that they have requested, or maybe even not requested, but they're hoping that you'll notice their thoughtfulness and that you'll reach out to them. So I hope this mini episode has been good for you to just get your bearings again on how you've potentially become misaligned and what you can do to bring it back. You heard me say the Glow Planner is in the show notes. Our mystery dinner game link is in the notes. You also heard me talk about how we have our episodes for next year. If you want to be one of those couples to come on and join us, make sure you check it all out. I hope you still know my book, The Enneagram and Marriage, is right there for you as well. And most of all, thank you so much for joining me today, with me today. Take a nice deep breath and allow yourself to contemplate one thing you're going to do as a result of this episode. It was so good being with you. Okay, taking my deep breath with you. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.